Troy, Alabama is one of those South Alabama cities that can gracefully boast of many treasures. The most recognizable is Troy University and the national attention gained through being a well-respected college town. But Troy is also a hub for major businesses and is surrounded by a wealth of natural resources and wildlife. Troy still maintains its small town southern charm, and hunting and fishing activities are abundant in this part of the state. This week, my friend Steve Camp wanted to introduce me to the faces and places of Troy's turkey hunting passion. We'll be guided through some of the most beautiful turkey hunting properties in the state, and there's plenty to see and hear. Join us as we approach the turkeys of Troy, coming up next, here on Gary Finch Outdoors. Steve Camp not only airs our show as the manager of Troy's cable system, he is also an avid outdoorsman. Earlier in the spring, we had bass fish together, and on this visit, he wanted to show me Troy's version of turkey hunting. We would also increase our odds by enlisting the assistance of Jason Rushing. Jason is not only an excellent competitive caller, he also manages land where he can monitor the movements of turkeys throughout the year. Heavy fog and the ever-present threat of rain would be constantly on our shoulder during this week's forecast. With no wind and so much moisture in the air, sound carried easily. Jason had seen turkeys in this area and knew that they preferred to use a well-traveled fire lane as an access to the field. With no gobblers being heard, he suggested that we set up and see what might stroll in. It wasn't long before a lone hen came down the lane and made her way to the center of the decoys. She wasn't pleased with the reception she got from the fake turkeys and eased back into the woods. Well, Jason, we got through sitting here for about 30 minutes checking on some turkeys, and I got up and I looked where you were sitting down, and it takes a few things to really concentrate on when you're out here. Tell us a little bit about what you've got here, and you used everything while we were here. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yes, sir, it's good to have as much stuff as you can. You don't ever know, especially if you're public hunting a turkey or something. And one call you might go through everything in your vest, and the last one you usually gobble and come right into it. But basically, a friction, we got the box. We use a slate, and got several different mouth calls and probably 8 or 10 different strikers, and a gobble tube. Just as much stuff as I can get in my vest as possible is how I try to do it. And you never know what's going to work, so it's best to, and if anything new comes out, a different sound or anything, that I try to put that in my vest.
Well, you definitely give a new meaning to a turkey vest.
Yes.
than I've seen. You got plenty of gear here. And we also, back behind us, we've got our decoy set out in front of us. And tell us a little bit while we've got a couple jakes and while we got a couple of hens out there.
Well, we have the jakes, and right now we have the hens feeding, and the jakes, grown gobbler or a dominant gobbler comes in, he sees those jakes out there feeding with those hens. He's coming in right then, and we have the aggressive jakes out, and it'll fire him up, and he sees them, he's gonna come waddling to them. And it's just, a lot of times, like today, we thought we heard a turkey drumming.
Right.
A lot of times they won't gobble. He might have been drumming on that wood line. Look out, see the decoys, and here he comes. You better be ready.
Well, like I said, I know she got several different calls. We got decoys. It's certainly, when you're out here, it's best to be as prepared as possible.
Exactly, as prepared as possible.
All right, what's our game plan next?
We're gonna get up and run and gun some more and see what we can do.
That's one thing, Jason. He spends some time. He checks everything out, makes sure that we work the area as hard as we can. As you can see, he's got all of his equipment. It goes wherever he goes. And when he's talking about running and gunning, that means we're going to put everything up, get our stuff, and get on to another spot, because that's the way you do it, isn't it?
That's the way you do it.
All
You got to work to get them.
I'll get my stuff ready to go.
All right.
We'll go. The decoy offers the promise of getting a shot at a wary gobbler that would otherwise never happen. The decoy not only draws the attention of the gobbler to the sight of a lonely hen, it also distracts him from focusing on the hunter's location or movements. Over time, decoys have been seen as just another tool available to those who are seeking to gain an advantage in the field. The ultimate decision of using them will be based on the individual's personal preference of how he wants to approach and experience the hunt. There are some basic guidelines to follow when using turkey decoys. The best choices in decoys are those that can be easily concealed and carried until they are ready to be used. This is especially important for turkey hunters who enter the woods completely camouflaged without the use of hunter orange. It's important to remember that other hunters may only see the decoy, not the hunter who is actually carrying it or seated behind the setup. In order for a decoy to be effective, it has to be seen from a distance, and this makes it more appropriate for open areas. The edges and corners of logging roads, fields, pastures, and cutovers are the better choices. The actual placement of the decoys deserves some careful planning and thoughts towards safety. It should not be placed where a hunter is blind to the approach of an incoming hunter. In addition, a large tree should be at the hunter's back to block his movements from anyone approaching from the rear. Most hunters understand that it is important that all types of decoys be placed well inside the effective shot range of the gun being used. This makes decoy placement at the edge of a large field ideal for both visibility and safety. Using decoys will require a change in tactics and also offers to expand the challenges of hunting the wild turkey. Jason felt like the gobblers should have been on the ground by now, and in order to find them, we were going to have to run and gun. That meant calling and quickly closing the distance to any gobbler that might happen to answer the box. The gobbler we were hearing was going away and headed to a field where birds had been seen before. The last thing we could afford to do is walk across an open field in plain sight. With the sun burning through the clouds, we chose to stay in the shadows and set up decoys on the edge of some planted pines that bordered the field. It didn't take long for interest to arrive. Another benefit of using decoys is that not only do they attract the turkeys, they also distract their attention from the hunter. When Jason went to see where our hen went, he came face to face with more birds. He needed to call and gobble to keep them from going across the field before seeing the decoys. These 3 jakes may have been traveling with a gobbler we had heard earlier in the morning. Our hopes were they might lead him into the open. Once a turkey has pinpointed sound, it's hard to get them off the trail. This jake was determined to find out who had been making all the fuss in the pines. The only thing that kept us from being spotted was his inability to see into the shadow cover. Evidently, it wasn't going to happen this morning. The next morning, Steve was unable to go with us due to work commitments, but teamed us up with Jason and Chris Campbell. Chris had seen birds in another field and felt confident that they could be worked.
How to get set up in the edge of these woods. Gobblers on this side of the river and get the decoy set up. They should come right across, right out in front of the decoys.
Are they on? What do you think they're on the other side of the river or this side?
They may be on the other side of the river, but
We'll call them across. They should pitch
come
down.
across.
Okay. Which on river you want?
I think we just walk up here, set up right up here, set up the decoys.
The freshly plowed field would be attractive to the turkeys, and once again, we had the threat of rain hanging in the air. Hiding 3 hunters and a camera would require everyone to remain motionless once a bird appeared. Jason started his calling out loud and was attempting to direct the bird's attention away from the river and woods and into the open field. The landing of the first hen only proved that the birds were willing to enter the field and were closer than we had thought. Once we had birds on the ground, Jason turned up the volume to entice the others to join them in the field. Instead of flying in, 2 more hens decided to walk in from the blind corner of the field and join our decoys. We now had 4 live hens and a spread of decoys. In the far end of the field, Chris and I could see what Jason couldn't: gobblers making their way toward the group. The first bird was a jake, and it was obvious that he had just spotted our decoys and hens. Following closely behind, we had just spotted 3 white heads with beards swinging below. When one bird dropped into a strut, we knew our decoy spread had just been spotted. They were still over 100 yards away, and Jason wanted to make sure they didn't get second ideas about leaving our decoys for the live hens.
We'll be right back with more Gary Finch Outdoors.
Oh man, I'll tell you what.
Oh, man.
2-year-old boy.
Yeah, mine's a 2-year-old.
2-year-old too.
Got a
All,
good thick beard, though.
all 2-year-olds.
They're pretty heavy.
They are big birds.
Yeah.
Big birds.
Well, that was awesome, wasn't
They
That was absolutely fantastic. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Good
was
job,
awesome.
Chris, man.
Yeah.
I didn't know their gobblers were ever going to show up. Those hens were out there for it seemed like an hour or 2 hours, and I know we all got cramped
I
this
know.
morning. But let's talk a little bit about what happened and what went on. I saw you at the lake yesterday, and y'all had just got one 30 minutes before y'all drove up,
Right.
and made us all jealous and everything. And then it started raining real hard, and y'all said, "Well, we're going to go try to roost one." And I was amazed when you called me, Chris, and said, "Hey, game plans changed. We got some birds roosted," and it rained. We needed a good rain, and we're hunting out here outside Troy. Got Chris Campbell and Jason Rush, and man, I tell you what, those hens stood around for an hour. I don't know if it was an hour, but it felt like an hour. When did you first see the gobblers, Jason?
Well, I first saw the gobblers. They popped out on the wood edge over there, and they were coming. And when they popped out, you could tell that they were locked in. They were on the way.
You know, something I noticed, Chris, when the decoys were here and the hens started moving on a little bit, y'all really wanted that to happen, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I knew with them 2 jakes, and if a gobbler ever showed up with 2 hens and 2 jakes, he was going to come on in. But I didn't see those turkeys until I heard him gobble back there in the woods.
Now, when those 3 birds saw the decoys, it was over.
It was
with.
over.
It was over.
Yeah.
That was it. Just pull the trigger then. It was over with.
And talking about covering some ground, they cover some ground, can't they, Jason?
They covered probably 150, 200 yards in less than a minute. It's amazing.
I know. I hate saying this, but I wish they would have got here earlier. But I mean, it all worked out
It
good.
worked out perfect.
But you know, going back to getting out here earlier, getting set up, and being covered the way we were.
Everything worked out
That's
perfectly.
that's what happened.
That's right.
You waited quite a long time before you even made any kind of noise, didn't you?
Yes, sir. Well, what I'd originally thought was they was probably going to pitch down right on top of us. And when I heard them, they sounded like they was across the river some. We got enough light for the camera. I started calling soft, to start off. And that hen picked it up back there, and I didn't want her to fly across the river, so I cut her, did a fly down, and she pitched down, and everything followed after that. And they stayed in front of us, like you said, forever.
Now, one thing I noticed that's real important is when you quit calling for a reason, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I quit. When they were in that close and we had them in the bag, there wasn't no need to keep, just whacking at them. We had the best decoys in the world, and them hens right here in front of us, and they stayed forever. So
That was
you
great,
couldn't-
man.
You couldn't ask for nothing no better. They done everything that you want them to do, and just cut it off and let everything happen.
And there's no reason to call anymore than after when you cut it off.
That's right.
That's the
That-
biggest
that's it.
mistake is overcalling.
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 I mean, there's no sense in just wearing it out.
That's right.
When those gobblers got in that bunch, tell me what happened, because it was unbelievable.
Well, I was pretty nervous. To tell you the truth. They come in there, I mean, right in a line, right next to each other, and I just knew it was a matter of time. They're fitting to take their last steps. But after he destroyed one of my decoys, you counted it down. We took them on out. If it wasn't for these decoys,
That's what you was telling me about.
we'd have never even killed these birds.
No.
Them gobblers would have stayed with them hens.
That's exactly right.
Gone right on with them.
Yeah.
And probably couldn't have called them away.
No,
No, you wouldn't.
not out here you couldn't.
You wouldn't call them away.
Well, I tell you what, it is fantastic. What a day. It's just Jason Rush, and I appreciate it very
Yes,
much.
sir.
What a
Yes,
what a
sir.
great hunt.
Enjoyed it.
Chris,
Always.
Chris Campbell, tell your dad we said hello.
I will.
He means a lot to us, and we appreciate y'all letting us come out and hunt. And folks, we just had a great time, and I hope you learned a little bit about not overcalling, getting out here early, and just taking your time, cutting off the calls, and making sure that you get out here and get good camouflage and set up and wait on them. That's the biggest
Patience.
thing. Patience, patience, patience. And we
Had
had
to run out of patience. To tell you the truth.
I know. I was about wore out. But we had a great time. We're going to take these birds in, and we'll see you next week right here on Gary Finch Outdoors. Guys, thanks for fun, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm still pumped.
I am
too.
too.